In his letter to the Romans, Paul starts by telling them why he has the credibility to write to them. In verse 1 of chapter 1, we find Paul, a servant of Christ Jesus, called to be an apostle and set aside for the gospel of God. The culture of this time was to identify yourself first, unlike today, where we sign a letter at the end. He opens himself to let the people know who he is and what he is about. He uses the words I am 3 times in chapter 1 in verses 14 to 16 to describe himself. That reveals the heart that Paul has for God and the gospel. Romans 1:14 to 16 reads, I am obligated both to Greeks and non-Greeks, both to the wise and to the foolish. That is why I am so eager to preach the gospel also to you who are in Rome. For I am not ashamed of the gospel, because it is the power of God that brings salvation to everyone who believes, first to the Jew, then to the Gentile. In verse 14, we see where Paul uses I am obligated. Paul felt he had a debt to the world, not just to Greeks, non-Greeks, the wise and the foolish, but to tell them about the saving grace of Jesus Christ. In verse 15, Paul says, I am so eager to preach the gospel. He was eager, which is translated in the Greek to mean burning up, and yet Paul was just the opposite of what the Romans might have expected. Paul was a Jew. The Romans hated you. He was small and frail. The Romans admired strength. He was not a powerful orator, and Rome was certainly full of them. The third I am is in verse 16, and I'm going to read the whole verse. I am not ashamed of the gospel, because it is the power of God for the salvation of everyone who believes, first for the Jew, then for the Gentile. Paul had a burning desire to share the gospel because he was not trusting in his natural abilities, nor was he deterred by the lack of them. His confidence was in God and in the message of the gospel. If you can say from your heart like Paul, I am a debtor, I am eager, I am not ashamed, the Lord will use you in a remarkable way.